Hello, my name is Janet Feasby, Vice President of Standards from Advertising Standards Canada. Today I will outline the framework for regulating advertising to children in Canada outside of Quebec. First, a little bit about ASC. We are the national not-for-profit industry body. Our mission is to ensure the integrity and viability of advertising through self-regulation. We are supported by all sectors of the advertising industry, including advertisers, advertising agencies, media organizations, and suppliers. Advertising Standards Canada provides standards for advertising through the Canadian Code of Advertising Standards, as well as independent advertising copy review service in 5 regulated categories. These are food, alcoholic beverages, children's advertising, cosmetics, and consumer drugs. With the exception of children's advertising, these were all functions previously performed by the federal government. When the government ceased providing this service, the industry asked ASC to do so to help it ensure that their advertising complied with the regulatory requirements. Today, I'll speak about the framework for advertising to children and the Children's Food and Beverage Advertising Initiative. This Ferris wheel slide shows the framework for regulating children's advertising, and it includes both regulatory and self-regulatory components. Canada's system is unique and well respected around the world, and it consists of the Broadcast Code for Advertising to Children, the Food and Drugs Act and Regulations, the Canadian Code of Advertising Standards, and the voluntary Canadian Children's Food and Beverage Advertising Initiative. But first, let's begin with the Broadcast Code. Canadian advertisers have a long history of supporting responsible advertising to children. The Broadcast Code was developed in the 1970s. Television was then, and it still is today, the main medium used for child-directed advertising. The Broadcast Code is designed to help advertisers develop broadcast advertising that recognizes the special characteristics of the child audience, that is, children under the age of 12. The code applies to advertising of any product used by children, for example, food, toys, movies, games. The code's 14 clauses set out what can and cannot be said or shown in a commercial directed to children under 12. And it is a condition of broadcast license. Pre-clearance of advertising under this code is mandatory. Broadcasters will not air a commercial that has not been pre-cleared by the Children's Committee. The Children's Committee is administered by ASC, but it is an independent committee composed of advertisers, public and private broadcasters, parents of children under 12, and the CRTC, and they meet weekly to review commercials and to ensure that they meet the requirements under the code. The Children's Code has interpretation guidelines dealing specifically with food. They say that snack foods can't be substitutes for meals, that you can't disparage fruits or vegetables or healthy lifestyles in a commercial, the portion size shown must be age appropriate for the child, and you can't show excessive consumption. So, for example, you can't show a child turning her nose up at an apple. And you can't show a big bowl of chips or excessive consumption. Now, I've talked about children's advertising. Let's move on to food commercials. All food commercials, whether directed to children or to adults, must meet the requirements of the Federal Food and Drugs Act and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency's Guide to Food Labeling and Advertising, and these are very strict requirements. In the case of food commercials directed to children, there is a double hurdle that must be met. First, the commercials must comply with the Broadcast Code, and then as well must be pre-cleared under the rigorous Food and Drug Act and CFIA requirements. ASC approves broadcast advertising of food commercials, and our approval number indicates to broadcasters that the commercial complies with all the requirements and can be aired. Now let's move on to non-broadcast media. And here we have the Canadian Code of Advertising Standards, which is the principal instrument of advertising self-regulation. It contains comprehensive standards for appropriate children's advertising, and it applies to ads in any media, including online, in social media, mobile media, video games. And the standards for advertising to children in the code mirror the provisions of the Broadcast Code, thus ensuring there are consistent, rigorous standards for advertising to children in all media. Here you'll see the same guidelines as the Children's Code about snack foods can't be substitutes for meals, you can't disparage fruits or vegetables, portion size must be age appropriate, and no excessive consumption. Under the Canadian Code, it provides a responsive complaint process. So complaints from consumers about advertising are adjudicated by an independent counsel that includes public representatives. If an ad is found to violate the code, ASC reports in our online ad complaints reports. And because of the rigorous codes, we receive very few complaints about advertising to children in any medium. Now let's turn to the Canadian Children's Food and Beverage Advertising Initiative. This is a voluntary initiative launched in 2007 by 16 leading food and beverage advertisers. It was designed to shift the emphasis in their advertising directed to children under 12 to healthier dietary choices and better-for-you products. The program is shifting the mix of what is advertised to children and changing the landscape of advertising to children. The Canadian program began 6 months after a similar U.S. program. Because of our 50-year experience with advertising self-regulation, ASC was asked to administer this program. You can see on this slide the logos of the participating companies. We began with 16 and now have 19 participants, Danone being the newest participant and joined in 2011. Under this program, participating companies have agreed to either not direct advertising to children under 12 or to only advertise foods or beverages that meet certain nutritional standards under the program. The companies have agreed to adhere to 4 core principles, and they publish the principles in their commitments, which are online on ASC's website. The program goes beyond traditional media and includes promoting better-for-you foods in child-directed media, which includes online, interactive video, computer games, DVDs of movies, or mobile media. So companies can only advertise foods that are better for you and that conform to nutritional guidelines consistent with scientific and government standards. 3 other core principles are licensed character restrictions. Only better-for-you products can use licensed characters. There's no product placement, no advertising in elementary schools with certain exceptions for educational, public service, or fundraising, and if approved by the school policy. 10 companies are directing 100% of their advertising to better-for-you products. For example, these would be products that are low or reduced fat or low or reduced sodium, that might meet the Heart and Stroke Foundation Health Check program, and that meet requirements for healthy eating claims and health claims in the CFIA guide. 9 of the companies do not direct any advertising to children under 12. As well, if a company wants to advertise a product to children, an independent dietitian reviews the product to ensure that the product meets the standards of the program. Now, ASC administers this program, and our administration consists of working with the participants to develop and approve their public commitments, which are available on our website. We ensure that the products meet the nutrition criteria of the program. We evaluate their adherence to their public commitments and report on the results. We have now had 3 years of monitoring and assessing their compliance. This slide shows our latest compliance report. Because this program is voluntary, the companies are committed to its success, and we have found in all three reports a very high level of compliance. Only minor compliance issues were uncovered by ASC, and when brought to the company's attention, they were promptly corrected. And the program is supported by all staff, agencies, media buying companies, and suppliers of the companies. And they've made sure that the companies understand how important it is to comply. Since its inception in 2007, the program is making a significant difference in changing the landscape of advertising to children under 12. With the assistance of Chorus Entertainment, ASC looked at a before and after snapshot of what was advertised to children before and after the program. You can see that in the 2004 period, 63% of the food and beverage products advertised directly to children under 12 qualified as better-for-you products. By contrast, in 2008, over 95% of food and beverages advertised to children under 12 were for better-for-you products. So there is a change. As well, since the program began, there has been extensive product reformulation to reduce sugar, sodium, and increase fiber. For example, ready-to-eat cereals, sugar content has been reduced from 14 grams and now ranges between 10 and 12. Parmalat has reduced sodium by 25% in its Fun Cheese and Cheese Strings products. Certain brands are no longer advertised to children under 12, for example, confectionery products, Pop-Tarts, peanut butter. In quick service restaurants, kids' meals, there are now more options for parents to choose for their children. 5 meals that are advertised under the program now include a serving of fruit and 1% milk or apple juice, where they used to contain fries and a soft drink, and no one meal exceeds 600 calories. The program has not stood still. It has and will continue to evolve. In 2007, we started with 16 companies, and the program applied to traditional media. Companies could advertise better-for-you products only 50% of the time, and their definitions they used for the under 12 audience was varied considerably, and most were at 50%. In 2008, the companies were required to advertise 100% better-for-you products. Then by 2012, we grew to 19 companies, expanded the coverage to broader, to different media, and harmonized the audience threshold definitions, 25 to 35% under the age of 12. In 2012 on the horizon, we're working this year to see if we can come up with common nutritional standards by product category. This was done in the US, and we're looking to see if we can do it here in Canada. So we are on a journey. We haven't got there yet, but we're continuing to review and improve the program so that it continues to change the landscape of advertising to children. And I just wanted to close with this slide. This slide shows the marketing and advertising pledges worldwide. Prior to 2006, there were no pledge programs. The U.S. started in 2000, Canada followed, and now there are pledge programs like Canada's with very similar standards all over the world that cover 44 countries. So these voluntary industry programs are changing the balance of food advertising to children in all these countries. This is a perfect example of the effectiveness of industry self-regulation. They're changing and adapting to changing societal sensitivities and demands. Industry has responded and will continue to do so in the future. Thank you.